So, who wants a transfer special? Well, this is episode number 42 of Robin's Revival. I'm Chasing Lamely. Hit like and subscribe. We're just finishing off season 5. This is our season 5 going into season 6 transfer special. And I'm, again, going to one day learn to speak English. Stick around, let's roll titles. So here we are then on the mysterious club details screen, because I don't want to give away too much good stuff to you for this season. Now, as always in these transfer special episodes, there will be no football today. I'm going to tell you that up front, so those who only come to watch the football parts can disappear, because I know you guys probably have more important things to do than to be listing transfers. For those of you who like a transfer update though, you're in for a treat. And we're going to start off by going through the players who have sadly left the club. Now, unusually for us this season, there were actually more outs than there were ins this season, and I was trying to trim the squad. There's a lot of players there who were just never going to make it at the level we're trying to play at now. And the first one out was a guy actually we don't think we saw play any football for us at all on or off stream, was Jan Songu. It was a guy who I brought in last season to be that mentor with his excellent mentor stats. He was the guy that I kind of brought in to help drive the youngsters forward. But he was just taking up a wage. I couldn't justify keeping him around. Don't know why I was doing that, because I wasn't trying to buy him. He's gone to Cotton Sport, who are a team from Cameroon, for 3.6k, and it's just a good return on a guy. He's probably given us that much in terms of benefit for developing players. I think we've probably got a good deal for him there. This next out might be a bigger surprise. He was the only striker at the club. Cameron Archer has gone to Swindon Town for 1.4 million, and I have a lot of questions, such as how a League One club, who actually have only just come back into League One, I think they went back down to League Two, have managed to spend £1.4 million on a striker who frankly isn't that good. I'll probably be proved wrong. He'll probably get 50 goals this season, but he wasn't scoring for me, and it made sense just to let him go. If he didn't want to score the goals, I didn't want to keep him. Another player who wasn't quite making the grade here was Dennis Adeniran. He was someone, again, you'll remember when I brought him in, I had really big hopes for him. He only actually ended up playing 16 times for us in the league. So he has moved on to Bolton Wanderers. He's gone across the Championship for 95k. We've taken a bit of a loss on him, but actually I think keeping around, he was on quite a decent contract. Keeping around was a bigger loss to us than actually just taking the hit on the transfer fee. So we moved him on. He'll go to Bolton. Bolton aren't predicted to do well this season, but we'll see if we face up against him at some point this season and see how he's doing. Dominic Ball's another guy I've taken a loss on. He's moved on to Milton Keynes at Dons. He wasn't really playing for us, even though I brought him in for 210,000, that kind of backup right back. He played okay when he was playing, but he just kind of forced his way into that first choice berth on the right hand side. So we've sold him for 42k. To MK Dons, taking again a bit of a haircut on him, but he wasn't making it. He was costing us a lot of money in wages. Made sense just to let him go. Another fee-generating sale actually was Lucas Gosling, who is a youth team product who never really looked like he was going to make it for us. But we sold him to Europa FC for £750. That fee could rise up to a little bit. There's a few little tie-ins in his contract for things like sell-ons and stuff that for some reason aren't showing there. But there we go. Those of you who are quick enough on the draw to get the bonus look with the little pause, probably be able to run away. But Max O'Leary has gone to Newcastle United. Our first choice goalkeeper sold on to Newcastle, 325k. Really good servant to us for the kind of 2 seasons, I think it was a season and a half actually he was here. Really good servant to us, but we bought him for 72. We sold him for 325. That's worked out pretty well for us as a deal. Now, Robert Tofan was a goalkeeper, a Romanian goalkeeper I brought in because I thought he had some big potential. He never secured a work permit. We could never seem to loan him out to anyone to be able to get that work permit. So he's gone to Politehnica Timisoara, I guess that is, of Romania, 3.2k return on a free transfer. I can't really grumble there. Another big move that went out, and we never really saw him play for the club. In fact, I don't think he did play for the club, was Alfie Davidson. He's a 19-year-old who I've just sold to Fulham for 3.7k. I spotted him playing for Respawn in the Conference South. He was doing really well for them, and I thought this kid might have some potential. Probably not the potential in the end that I thought he had looking at him playing for Respawn. So I took him on a free because for some reason he was still on a youth team contract. So I took him for free. There were a few little add-ons and stuff that were associated with that. I loaned him out to Bromley last year, and then Fulham came along and said, okay, we'll give you 3.7 million for him. I don't think this kid's ever going to be good enough to play in the Premier League. I didn't think he was ever going to be good enough to play in the Championship, looking at how he was developing. And you can see from his stats, nothing about this kid screams Premier League centre midfielder. I mean, yes, he can pass really well, he's got the work rate, he's got the stamina, he's got a few of the basics, but you wouldn't look at that guy and go, he has the potential to be a Premier League central midfielder. So when they came in for him with this massive offer of 3.7 mil, with add-ons, I should say, I wasn't going to turn it down. I took it. It helped me finance a lot of this transfer activity this summer, so we can't complain at all. Now, another player I finally moved on after kind of making the decision he wasn't quite going to become the Championship player I hoped for was Chris Moore. He has gone to Sheffield Wednesday after a year on loan there. 300k we sold him for. We still took a profit on what we paid Leeds for him. He's had a couple of loans out where we've also made a little bit of money on the loans. So this guy's been pure profit. He, I guess, could have made it at Championship level. I just didn't see him being top-end Championship level. And I think he wants to be in a position to fight for the playoffs now. And I didn't think he was going to be a guy that could contribute to that. He is a good player. He will be a good, solid, long-term Championship player. It just won't be in the top half. Another player I took a fee for was this guy. I signed him from Fulham a few years ago. Was Idris Odutayo. He just didn't develop. I spent £500,000 on this guy. He went on loan back to Nigeria, and I thought he'd get some football, come back ready to play some good football for us. And then he went to Oldham last season in the Panorama National, and frankly, for a player who I'm expecting to become a Championship player, I didn't think a 6.7 rating was actually good enough. It showed me there was something in his character that was maybe a bit lazy, perhaps, or maybe a bit there was something under the hood that wasn't really going to work out. So I sold him. Plateau United gave me 27k for him. I was happy to cut my losses actually on this guy. He probably could have made something of himself in League One, I think, but I don't think he was ever going to get the football here. And I think 23. It wasn't really the development time for him to get to Championship level before I would have got frustrated with him. So he has moved on. Now, Adriano Jelenovic was another player I brought in for his mentoring abilities rather than his footballing abilities, because he was at that age where things weren't going to work out for him. He wasn't actually Championship level when I signed him. He was just a good mental guy to kind of help guide players along. Came in for a free, did a year with us, didn't play, sold him on to a Croatian club, Croatia Zmijatski, I guess that would be close enough. He's gone to Croatia, 15k, good business. Now, perhaps the surprise of the season in terms of transfers, and I know you'll be wondering, we're looking at a coach, why are we talking about transfers? Remember I signed Lisandro Lopez last season? I thought I'd have a year out of him. I thought he would help me develop a player, it would go well, things would go, come in for a free. I sold him to Tigre in Argentina for 245k. He moved at, I want to say, the beginning of June he moved to Tigre. He was there 1st of July, and then he retired 12 days later. Tigre must be furious. A club like Tigre can't go spending 250k, £250,000 on a player, and having him retire. They must be furious. I'm quite happy because I made £250,000 on a player who was retiring. They will be furious. But, he was a good player for us for a season, and now he's retired and he's not actually good enough to be ahead of youth here. So, well, I guess, bye. Cheers, bud. Now, Predrag Zek, you'll remember, I had some really big hopes for. I thought he was going to go on and become a really top international player. And again, he just didn't develop. He just didn't feel like he had any drive. He wasn't really of the personality, I guess, to do anything. So I've sold him to Blackburn. And again, this is excellent business, because I brought him in for a free. I gave him 2 years with us, effectively, because he did have a season. with us last year as well, I think. I seem to remember he was doing it here for 2 years. It says 1, I think it was 2. Anyway, I saw him for 3.7 million after he played 7 times, and I don't feel bad about it. And I think Blackburn, nearly put to the Premier League, maybe aren't going to get what they think they're getting out of this kid. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll get proven wrong. He'll turn into, the next Boban or the next Modric or something. But I don't think he will. And I think they've just given us 3.7 million, rising to potentially near 5 for a guy who's probably not going to quite make it. And he certainly wasn't one of our top choices in midfield. So I thought I'd just let him go and see if he could, just make us some money and sell ons. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I am with this one. Now, you remember me signing Carlos Borges, or maybe you did, maybe I mentioned it at some stage. He was a Portuguese youngster that I brought in, 2-3 seasons ago, and I thought we'd have a go, see how he develops. Came in for a free from City, looked decent, loaned him out to Cirencester for a little while, and he did well, but it's Cirencester there in the Southern Premier, I think. So he went to Rochdale on loan for a season, did really well. I thought about maybe bringing him in, maybe a 7 rating. And then I thought about, I've got a lot of wingers around, and Carlos Borges is already 22. How much more is he developing? Determination's not quite there. So I thought we'd sell him 38.5k to Wickham. Pretty good return on a guy who cost me nothing. Went on loan for a couple of years. It'll do. It's money in the bank that we can invest better elsewhere, is kind of how I looked at it. Now, similarly, Ollie Camis is a guy I brought in from Bournemouth on a free, and I loaned him out to Chesham in Vanarama South. He had a decent year, but he didn't. I've got a lot of goalkeepers at the club. I wasn't sure how much more he was going to develop. He was never going to push for a first team place. So I sold him to Crewe for 10k. You can see from his stats, I was probably justified in that assessment. He was never going to be more than a sort of second or third choice goalkeeper for us. And I can do better than that. So that's what I did, is kind of what's going on. So I took the money and I ran away. Now, another youngster that I let go was Grant Patience, who came out of our youth team. He did play one game. I think the only game he played for us was actually on camera as well. Yeah. He was not developing. He was not going to be ever a first team player for us. I could kind of tell that. So let's send him on loan to Barrow last season, and then Preston came and offered me 35,500 for him, for a guy who realistically I think is not going to be more than a League One player, even with all the development time and all the dedicated development time put into him in the world. Was never going to be more than a League One player. Pure profit. Pure profit, happy to make it, hope he has a good career. I don't think Preston are going to stay in the Championship, so maybe he can build that good League One career with them. We'll do a check-in with the players we've sold at some stage. Maybe that'll be like the episode 50 bonus. We'll do a who's left and how have they done thing. Again, another player I don't think you ever saw in a Swindon shirt was Ferhat Yilmaz, a Turkish under-21 international who just would never get a work permit. He got a work permit to go to Chorley on loan last season, but he couldn't get a work permit to play for us or develop with us. So I sent him away on loan twice to Menemenspor, who I bought him from. Sorry, I don't send him away once on loan to Menemenspor, who I took him from. He wasn't developing. 425k to send him kind of back to Turkey was not the worst deal in the world for a player who you can see here. The determination stat is always key in developing a youngster. He doesn't have it. He could have potentially become a really top-class player, and I hope someone sorts his mind out and he becomes that really top-class player. But I've got a very stacked squad, and I can't afford to keep a player around long enough to fix a full determination before I have to kind of cut my losses and let them go. And nearly £500,000, I can spend that better. So I have. Talking of youngsters who weren't developing, this guy I thought would develop better than he did, actually, and I don't know why he didn't. He never really seemed to pick up the pace. So I sold him to Brentford for £2.1 million. He came out of our youth team, so he cost us absolutely nothing. He's had a couple of good loan spells at Cirencester, at Eastleigh. He could become a Championship player. I just didn't feel like it was a long-term project I could invest in. But I felt for the good of the kid's career with the way we are. We're kind of in that transitional stage now from trying to survive the Championship to trying to maybe start pushing on to head for the Premier League. I didn't think he would develop into a Premier League player, and I didn't think he'd develop into a top-end Championship player in the time it would take before we start looking at really seriously knocking on the promotion door. He will turn into a top-end Championship player. He will be a guy we encounter again. He may even get some Premier League football with someone getting promoted. But it's not going to be for us, so I thought I'd just take the money. I did chuck a couple of add-ons in there as well. I think we're going to be okay long-term off this deal, but you have to sometimes look at our player and go, is he going to get to where we are heading for when you're developing them before we get there, before we surpass that? And I don't think John Welsh is the guy, and I think 2.1 million for him is actually quite a strong piece of transfer business. And similarly, actually, Andy Cochran fits into that same basket. He was a guy I kind of had hopes would make it into the first team. Didn't really develop quick enough to get into the team when it was at the level he was getting. So he's currently probably a League One player, and I thought he would be a guy who became a League One, maybe Championship player for us. Did really well in League Two last season, and I sort of took a long, hard look when his loan ended. I was like, is this kid ever becoming a Championship player? I decided he wasn't, and then Wigan came in with a bid for 130,000 for him, and it was kind of a no-brainer. So we let him go. And best of luck to him, but I'm not sure he's ever really going to make it at this level. And Charles Sago was a guy, again, he didn't develop as fast as I hoped with his low determination. Kind of played into that. He came in on a free from Cardiff or Arsenal, I believe, when I signed him. It was Cardiff. Oh, I paid 185k to Cardiff, but I forgot I paid for it. I feel bad now. He went on loan to Ghana for a year, did well. Sent him on loan to Gloucester for a couple of months, and he did okay. And then he went back to Gloucester this season for a full season. It was just terrible. And it was at that point I was just like, this kid doesn't want to make it. Asante Kotoko came in with 57k for a player who frankly can't perform in the Conference National. When you're a Championship club, you take the money, you run. And that's what I've done. And this was an odd deal as well. David Ware. So I brought him in thinking he maybe had something there, potential-wise. He came in for nothing from Newcastle when they released him. I loaned him out to Bath pretty much straight away. He had a decent season at Bath. Maybe could have given him a bit longer. But Sunderland came with 13k for him. And again, you look at this kid and you go, he doesn't have the determination to really there's no ambition there. There's no ambition there to be a top-class player. I think it was just best to take some money for him, get him off the wage bill, let him be someone else's problem, because I've reached that stage where I've got to be quite ruthless. I've stockpiled a lot of young players. And I've got to be quite ruthless with who is and isn't going to make it. David Ware isn't going to make it. And I don't think Sunderland are going to have any better luck with him. So he's gone back to the North East. I imagine he'll end up playing somewhere else in the North East. Hartlepool, Gateshead, something like that. And then that'll be him done, pretty much, as a career. So, it's a loss for him. It's a loss for nobody but us, really. So, good stuff. Now, this will surprise people, but I've sold Lewis Gordon to Celtic for 150k, and a lot of people, I think, probably thought I was going to try and develop Lewis Gordon into a Premier League player. I thought a little bit I was going to try and develop him into a Premier League player, but then I just kind of thought, he's a Championship player, I'll be honest. He's a Championship player, a good Championship player. We got 4 seasons out of him on loan before we spent money to bring him here permanently. And he never really, you can see, if you look at his average ratings, he was getting worse year on year, and it felt like that's not a guy who has what I want to keep around. That's kind of not the attitude I'm looking for. If he'd had a worse season this year, we'd have been exposed, and that wouldn't have worked out. And with a guy like Ronaldo Anaya waiting in the wings to develop, again, it didn't make sense to kind of keep him around. Celtic offered me 150k. I was like, bud, do you want to go back to Scotland? He was like, sure. I was like, do you want to play for Celtic? He was like, easy medals. I think we all agreed this was a good deal for him, so he's gone. Now, one more bit of business that, again, was just kind of a no-brainer. Development-wise, we signed James Norris on a free from Liverpool. He's a decent left-sided player. We sent him on loan to York. He had a good season in the conference. And then Salford came and offered me 6k for him. And I thought, we'll let him go because I've got to be, again, quite ruthless. Now you're thinking, lamely, you're telling me that this guy had some potential. And he had the determination I looked for him. Maybe we'll push on. But I don't think potential-wise this guy is going to develop fast enough to be more than a League 2 player. And sometimes, or League 1 maybe player. Sometimes you just have to take a step back, recognise the guy isn't developing, and give him a chance to have a career. And that's what I've done by sending James Norris back to the Northwest. I hope he does well. I genuinely hope that he's a guy I come across again in the future and I get proved wrong, but I didn't have the ability to dedicate my time to his development and hope for the best with this guy, so he's gone. And there's one more big out I need to tell you about before we move on to the ins, and you're going to be quite interested in the ins, I think, this season. And the final big sale will surprise some of you. I've sold Nazid Agungbo. Now, he was one of our first choice central defenders. He played a lot of games for us, 56 games across 2 years. Can play anywhere across the back. He was a bit of a pain in the arse, though. He kept asking for more football than he was really good enough for. He was a rotation player. You can see 24 appearances last year. He was a rotation player. Kept trying to demand more and more and more football, and he wasn't actually. I wouldn't have him top 3 in quality in a defence that wasn't good enough for this league. If I'm completely honest, he was just kind of rotated in because he was versatile, could do it. He was a good option on the bench, so he played a lot of football from the bench as well. And then it was switched off me 1.1 million. And I thought, you know what, 1.1 million for a 23-year-old who, with all respect to him and the Irish national team, if you're playing 24 games in a season in the Championship in a team that are mid-table and you haven't had a cap yet, you're probably not really where you need to be. So we let him go. And 1.1 mil, that's funding a lot of rebuild, and maybe he'll do well for Ipswich this season. I hope he does. But I didn't think long term he was going to be the guy. So we've let him go. We've taken a gamble. We've let him go. Now let me show you who's replacing all these guys who have left. It's quite a list, but it's a good list. You'll enjoy this. So the first guy you should expect to see play a little bit this season, I suspect, is William Hegarty. He's a Northern Irish under-21 international goalkeeper. He's not the long-term replacement for Max O'Leary. He's the guy I thought he's good enough to be a long-term backup, kind of like a Steve Harper guy. I don't think he's going to play a lot of football for us, but he'll be here for a long time, filling in when we need to. He came on a free from Cliftonville, where he's played a lot of football in the Northern Irish Premier League. He's played 137 games. And I should point out, again, he's 19. He's got a little bit of potential to develop, but like I said, I think this guy is going to be a long-term kind of backup keeper, is how I'm looking at him, rather than being the guy. He'll get loaned out here and there, but he's not the guy for now. He's not going to be the guy. He's just going to be a really solid backup. He's got enough mentors that he should develop on his own to reach that kind of potential without needing too much first-team football. If I'm proved wrong and he becomes our long-term number one, great, but he cost me nothing, and he's a good piece of business for us, I think. Now, the next signing was our actual first-team goalkeeper this season. I signed Nathan Baxter. He came in from Bournemouth. 175k for a goalkeeper who was previously bought for 300 seems ominous. I agree. He's a product of Chelsea's youth team. He never played a game for Chelsea. He played some games on loan in the Conference National, in the League 2, in the Scottish Championship, League 1. You can see there's a development path here. He has been developing. He played for Hull in the Championship and then had a season in the Championship for Middlesbrough, and then Wolves took him on a free and gave him some Premier League football. He's a good Championship keeper, I think. I genuinely think this guy's a good Championship keeper. I'm quite pleased to have picked him up at 27. I think we can get a couple of good years out of him. I think he can kind of put down some roots here, and if he doesn't, it's because I've signed a Premier League quality goalkeeper. I think he is actually better than Max O'Leary, which again is good business. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but he's also a bit younger, so I'm quite happy to have picked him up. Now, remember we talked about how I sold a player who, Lisandro Lopez, I think he was, I sold a player who went on to be a retired player about 12 days after I signed him. Well, I signed Wes Foderingham, who was a Swindon Town legend. We brought him in years ago, and he was quite the force in our rise to sort of being a playoff championship, a playoff League One club. And then he went and joined Rangers for a while, and had some good times at Rangers. Then he went to Sheffield United to become their backup, and then somehow found his way to Newcastle to be their backup. And then I saw him available, and I was like, I need a backup goalkeeper. I can probably find a place for him. So I spent the $3,000 it took to bring him home, and then he retired about a week later. He retired, so I made him my under-23s goalkeeping coach, and he's not the best goalkeeping coach in the world, but the under-23s, you know, you don't really use him to develop players, you use him to to develop coaches more than players, I tend to find, actually. I thought he could be a long-term goalkeeping coach, so that's what he's doing for us now. But shame, because it would have been nice to see him play just one more game in a Swindon shirt, and it never happened. Now, the first big signing I made this season was Cody Drama, who came in from Leeds for £1 million. And Cody Drama, those of you who've been playing FM for a while know, usually turns into quite a decent, low-level Premier League defender. And when you get a guy like that who's available for a fee as low as £1 million, he's not playing for Leeds last season, he just wasn't playing for them at all. He's quick, he can play both sides of the fence, he can move into midfield. I've managed him before last year, I managed him on FM21. I know this guy can do the business for me. And so I decided that I would bring him in, spend the £1 million, give me another option at right back, give me another option at left back, just give me an option. £1 million for. I didn't need a fullback, if I'm honest. I didn't need a fullback, but I saw him available and I couldn't turn it down. So I spent the £1 million. I just sort of cut my losses and went, yeah, we'll spend that. We'll see how he does this year. I think he'll do really well. I think he's the best acquisition we've made in terms of defensive solidarity. Maybe not the best acquisition we've made this summer, but certainly in terms of improving our defence to help us push on, I think he's a really good signing for us. Right now, Ryan Longman, he's back on loan for the season. He's not a new signing, obviously. He played for us last year, but I brought him back in on loan for a season. The deal isn't as good this year as it was last year, I'll be honest, because we've had to spend more money and pay more of his wages. But he did well for us last year. He is good enough for this level. I couldn't afford to buy him permanently, because buying him permanently would have involved me spending... They wanted about £3 million for him at one stage. I wasn't spending £3 million on a player I could get on loan and spend about 300k on. It didn't make sense to me, especially because his contract will run out very soon and I'll get him for free, having spent less than £3 million. But we know Ryan Longman, we know he's good. Glad to have him back. There's a couple of other loan signings I've renewed, so I'll quickly run through those before we go on the new faces. So, Shabuabua is back for his third season with the club. Shabuabua is a great player. We know he's a great player. We're quite happy to have him around. Brendan Land as well, he's back as well. We like having Brendan Land. This will again be his third season on loan with us. We have Alejandro Garnacho on loan as well, which is always a good sign. And then a couple more. We've got Daniel DC is also remaining with us as well for the season. But there's one or two new loan signings as well, so let's go meet them. The first guy came in, kind of solves our striker problem with Archer leaving. And I say kind of solves because he's still another loan signing. So we have DZ on loan with this guy, Ignacio Luque, a Spanish under-20 international on a free loan from Manchester United. I actually wanted to buy this guy. I spotted him playing for Real Espales. He came with my scout report. I was like, I really like this kid. I really want to get him. I put a bid in for him and United signed him. And then I was like, that's a shame because I'd like to have signed this kid. And I remembered, Man United are a senior affiliate and he wasn't going to make their first team. So they paid the money for him and I took him off him for free. And that's great business in my eyes. And if I can keep him on a loan for as long as possible, they'll probably release him and I can have him for nothing. And we like Ignacio Luque. He is decent at advanced form, which is how we'll probably be deploying him if I can get it to show up. Nothing spectacular anywhere except his balance, but lots of room to develop. At 18, he's got the mentals for it. I think if I can keep him on loan for 2 or 3 years, I'll spend whatever it takes to keep him around, if I'm honest, because this has long-term striker potential. So that's a good signing for us. And also coming on loan, this is going to kill you. You guys already know this is going to kill me when it comes to commentary. Giannis Chatsivasiliadis. I'm going to tell you now, but let's not even mess around. This guy is just going to be known as Gianni. From now on, he's just going to be known as Gianni because I can't be doing with a long Greek name. You know that'll take me weeks to pronounce it. And I'd rather just give him the nickname Gianni because, you know, he's Australian-Greek. He's on loan from Manchester United. He can play as a left back. He can play as a left wing back. He can play as a central midfielder. He can play as an attacking midfielder. He's good. He's versatile. He is options in a box, the Swiss Army knife of our new team. He comes on loan and he'll get some football. He'll get some football here, there and everywhere this season. If I'm honest, he's probably going to be a guy I keep on the bench, break glass in case of emergency. I can drop this kid in anywhere. He'll do a job for me. That's what he's here for. So hopefully we'll see some good stuff from him. Now, some of you have been around the channel for a while are going to be screaming at me, Chasing you, moron. Why have you signed Wesley again? Well, what happened was I had this striker called Cameron Archer, who was decent and didn't score any goals. And I got offered a lot of money for him, and he was the only permanent striker of first-team quality I had in my squad. And then I noticed that Wesley was available on free, and I thought, well, it can't be a mistake 2 years running, so I thought, I'll sign him up for a free, we'll give him a couple of years. Maybe he'll score a few goals for us, and I won't regret making this signing. So hopefully I won't regret making this signing. He's had 9 goals in 11 games in pre-season, so I can't complain too much. This guy's had a bit of a weird career in terms of he's at Watford in real life, and they paid $6.5 million for him, after Aston Villa paid $22 million for him. And he's never scored goals anywhere he's been. This guy's not really a goal scorer. He had a year in Belgium where he scored 11 in 28. Had a year in Germany in that second tier where he scored 11 in 27. And I think he has a habit of being able to con people into thinking this guy might actually be a decent player. I mean, even before in Belgium, he was not racking up numbers. I'm hoping I've not been conned, and if I have, he's cost me nothing and I'll make a profit, is what I'm thinking. I want him to score goals. I just can't guarantee it. He's pretty much third choice in terms of strikers as well. There's reports where I'll find that list. I mean, I've got DC, I've got Matika, I've got Luque, I've got Longman. Wesley's kind of just in there as a guy I can throw in if I need to. And hopefully he'll get the odd goal here and there, and I won't regret this signing. But I'm already feeling like I should have learned from last year. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And obviously, as always, I've signed a few youngsters on frees because that's what I do, and we don't talk about them in the transfer special because I like to wait and see if they actually make it. This one, he wasn't on a free. I'm not at all worried he's going to make it. So Wilmar Ruiz is a central midfielder, attacking left midfielder, who I have signed from Colombia. He came in from La Equidad for 600k, and you're probably thinking 600k, it's big money for you to spend on an 18-year-old who's never proven himself anywhere in Europe. This kid was wanted by every club. I looked at, I found him, I looked at the list of people. You go to the transfer status screen, you see all the list of interested clubs. And he was wanted by Manchester United, Manchester City, PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juve, Inter, Milan, you name it. If you can name a big club in Europe, they wanted this guy. But one thing I noticed was they were all willing to wait until his contract expired. They all said end of contract to wait to make a bid for him. And I thought, I'm going to have a little cheeky go at just spending some money. His contract was only about 4 or 5 months from ending. I thought, I'll have a little cheeky go, I'll have a cheeky look at this one. Can I get him to come here if I'm willing to spend money on him? And I spent money on him, and he was willing to come here, and he is by far the best player in the squad. He's 18, and I think this kid actually is a wonder kid. I think this media description is going to tick over to wonder kid at some point in this season. I think he's a great signing. I think this is a kid who's with us now for the duration, quite frankly. I expect him to become a world-class player. I expect him to become an international. He may even go play at a World Cup or two. I'm really pleased. This could be famous last words. You guys are going to remind me of this in the comments. Well, I said this guy was going to be great and he'll be terrible. I think I found a big South American superstar here. I don't know how I persuaded him to come to Wiltshire. I don't care. He's in Wiltshire. There's nothing you can do about it now. He's under contract. That's not how it works. I'm a lawyer, but that's not how that works. You're not getting out of this one. We've made a good signing. We've made a great signing. He's a big name. But you'll be surprised to hear that even though this is the best signing I've made all summer, I also broke the club's all-time transfer record. Do you want to see who I spent all that money on? You know you do. Please welcome 31-year-old Adam Webster, who I spent £2.7 million on. He's a centre-half, a ball-playing centre-half, but a centre-half nonetheless. I can't believe I broke the club's transfer record for a centre-half who's 31. It may seem like a short-sighted decision, but once I lost to Gungbo, I realised I did need that extra strength and depth at the back. Adam Webster, we know, Brighton player, had some good games in the Premier League, lots of good games in the Premier League, alongside Ben White, looked like a real talent at Premier League level. Maybe some of us would have even said could have snuck into the England squad at some stage, and I can't remember if he did in real life because I stopped watching England games when they got boring. But Adam Webster is a great centre-half at Championship level, a really good centre-half. And now I have a partnership with him and with Gibson, and I've got Odomayo, and I've got Colwell, Shabua Burke can move back there, I've got Bismarck and Finn Burns ready to kind of step into the breach. centre half was or defence in general actually over the last couple of years. It's been an area where I've really kind of struggled to find reinforcements, and I was happy to spend the money because there were so few options historically at centre half. Now, with Adam Webster on board, I think we've got a really good chance of pushing for the Championship playoffs, and luckily the bookies agree. Now, over the last season, the bookies said we were going to be lucky to finish around sort of 14th, and so I think 15th they predicted. We finished 14th. That seems right from memory, and I thought that'll be fine. That'll be good. That's what we achieved. Now this year, the bookies think we're going to finish 8th. Now, if we finish 1 or 2 places above that, we are in playoff contention. Obviously, 2 places above that, we're in the playoffs. I don't think we're going to get also some big managers coming out. We'll talk about that in a second. We've got some stiff competition, but we're predicted to be better than Stoke, who just got relegated. If we can build a good run of form, I think we can actually sneak into the playoffs this season. I'm not guaranteeing you promotion. I think we can sneak into the playoffs here, and that's what we're looking at. Also, Sean Dyche joining Brentford. That's cheeky. As is Stevie Gerrard going to Reading. That's kind of cheeky. They could be interesting teams this season. Anyway, I'm going to show you what our predicted best 11 is. I'll show you the squad depth chart. I'll show you how we've improved this season. So here we are. This is the squad depth screen, and it is looking good. In goal, we have Baxter, who is there. In fact, I'm going to take out the players who are not at the club, even though it is worth noting Aaron Maguire is still around, and he is still on loan. So in goal, we've got 2 good options in Baxter and Hegarty. They're both good enough to get some first-team football at this level, not disgrace themselves. And that's kind of what I was looking for. Now, long term, I'll look for a top goalkeeper, but it's not a priority. I think Baxter's got a little bit of development left in him yet as well. At right back, ignore the fact that Land is there because Brendan Land's always there. He tends to play on the right wing for us, as you know. We've got Gore, we've got Adamaya, we've got Drama, we've got Dye. I think we're okay. I think it's either Dye or D, or I might just kill his nickname and use his real name. We've got 3 good options at right back. I'm not worried there. Left back, we've got Gibson who can play there, though he's primarily a centre back. And Nia Cole and Drama can fill in there. Gould can fill in there as well. Left back, I reckon we're okay at. If the right guy came up, I'd take him, but I don't think I'm too worried. In central defence, we've got Gibson, Webster, Odomayo, Colwell, and Shabua. Bua just for starters, though Shabua tends to play in the midfield, which is why we've got Burns and Bismarck. We're good at centre half, I think, this year. In centre mid, we've got Ruiz, we've got Palmer, Shabua, Bua, Johansson's there. It's probably his last season. I'm trying to sell him, actually, but it's probably his last season either way. Speckschneider's still on loan as well. We've got Marul, who's back from loan, who's going to develop. We've got Scarp, we've got Gianni, we've got players who can fill in our central midfield. Central attacking midfield, we've also still got, obviously, the option of Ruiz there, Palmer there, Matiki can play there. Hanson, Marul, Scarp, same guys. They can all play in attacking midfield as well, which is quite nice for the ability to rotate. On the right-hand side, Land, Matika, Longman can play there. DC can play there and might actually play there at some stage this season, as well as Garnacho, who is sticking around for the foreseeable permanent future. I forgot, did I tell you he was a loan? He's not a loan. I signed him 20k, or less than 20k. Anyway, there you go, that's the thing that happened. Completely forgot I'd signed him permanently. It's only been a couple of days since I recorded the last episode, and I completely forgot that I had signed him on a permanent. So there you go, that's our left wing options, or our right wing options. Our left wing options, pretty much the same thing, except we've got this lad Owen Windsor, who is slowly creeping through. I don't think I signed him this season. Did I sign this season? I signed him last season on a free, sent him on loan to Aldershot. He's slowly creeping into contention after being released by West Brom, sorry. He might get a few games this year. He's a big potential kind of, maybe I'll keep him, maybe I won't. We'll see. He's a question mark, but he's in the running, and we might see him in the cup game here or there. Which brings us to up top, where we have DC Matika, Longman, Wesley, Luque. That's the most strikers I have had available in my squad for a very long time. And hopefully one of them will go on a scoring streak, and we'll get some goals, and we'll get ourselves out of the Championship, which is fine. Anyway, looking forward, of course, let's look at the schedule rather than the Championship table, because there's no points on anyone's board at this point. We are playing Nottingham Forest in the first game of the season. That's going to be Friday's episode. Remember, we've gone to a 3-day-a-week schedule just while I'm sorting out the new job situation. We've got into a schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday for now. So, as you probably guessed, today is Wednesday. If you're watching this, Friday, we're going to play Nottingham Forest again. Second time in succession. We're going to play Nottingham Forest this week. Start the season off, see where we're at. in comparison to Forest. It's quite a good benchmark because Forest finished one place above us last season. If we absolutely smash them, we're probably on for a good season, is sort of what I'm thinking. Anyway, I'm very aware this has gone on for a very long time. I apologise. I've talked and waffled, and I've not recorded in a couple of days, and that's what happens when I talk and waffle. And Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I have, as always, been Chasing Lamely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit comment. Have a little go at predicting in the comments who you think is going to be our best performer this season, who you think is going to be our worst performer of the new signings, who's the person you're most looking forward to seeing play. Also, in terms of the outs, who do you think I'm going to miss the most? Do you think I've made a mistake? Is there someone I shouldn't have let go in there? Have I been stupid? Definitely let me know about that. But in the meantime, guys, I've been Chasing Lamely. It's been a pleasure having you as always. And until next time, have a good one.